Hey, it's Jennifer from Quilting, Stitching, and Kitties. Today I have got a new method for you for Quilt As You Go. It is a method I've never done before. I did a little practice block, like 6 inches, but I decided that I didn't want to do another practice block, so I wanted to make a new quilt for Sherlock. I pulled out a really, really pretty layer cake and I just set it up as squares. Now, for this method, I did in fact cut all these squares down to 9.5. And I'll be showing you exactly why I did that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this, and I'll be back in a little bit and show you the process. In this process, you're going to put your quilt together in strips. So I went ahead and sewed all my top together and left it in a strip, and then I sewed my backing together because I'm going to use the same fabric for the backing. Your blocks have to be a 1/2 inch smaller than your quote block for the back. Or you can think of it this way: your strip width for the back has to be a 1/2 inch wider and a 1/2 inch longer for your top strip. So my top strip, I cut these down to 9.5 inches, and I left the backing at 10 inches. And then I just sewed my strip together. So the first thing that you do is you layer backing, batting, top, just like you would for a regular quilt. So you've got a sandwich. Make sure you've got plenty of room on both ends, because you know how batting can shift and everything. And then you just go ahead and quilt. So I chose straight lines. You can quilt truly any method that you want, but very important, for the side of the quilt that is going to attach to the next strip, do not quilt any closer than a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to be attaching the next strip over here. I put my lines 1 3/4 apart, and I used masking tape to do it. Masking tape is really easy. You just put it down in a straight line and then just stitch right next to it, pull it off, move it over. So that's what I did. But like I said, you can quilt it any way you want. So this entire strip is now quilted. So top up, backing down, I am now going to attach the next strip. This seems very odd the way that you do it, but it really works. So you lay your backing on your table right side up. Then you take the strip that you finished and you lay it on top of the backing right side up. Boy, I thought this was really messed up when I read the instructions. And then I went, oh, okay. And then I practiced. Line it up to the edge. You're going to be making a quilt sandwich. So just line it up and go ahead and get your next thing, which is your top of your next strip. And you're going to put it right side down. So here's your sandwich: top, previous strip, backing. Then you go ahead and make sure they're all lined up. And I'm lining my 2 blocks right here together and putting a pin. And I use these big pins because I've got a quilt sandwich. And then just do the same thing all the way down the strip. So I know this looks odd, but let me do one more and then I'll show you why it works. So when you sew this together at 1/4 inch, what's going to happen is Your backing is going to be like this. We're going to stick some batting in here, and then the top of the next strip is going to be just like this, attached to your previous strip. I know, it's kind of like magic, right? So then what you do is you stitch your 1/4 inch together, flip them over. You can press like out away from the seam, and then you're going to take your batting and you're just going to tuck it right up against the previous edge. And then you're going to quilt your next strip. I know it looks weird, but it really works. I told you I did a little sample and I'm like, this is like magic. Quilt it any way you want. So I'm going to show you this again after I've done this piece. But I think I forgot to mention, after you've quilted your first strip, you're going to have extra backing and extra batting because you're cutting it 1/2 inch bigger. Trim it down to your actual strip width on both sides. So backing underneath, right side up, then the piece that you've already quilted, then your top for the next piece, right side down, pin them together, stitch them at 1/4 inch. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll be back. I have sewed my strips together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip up the backing. I'm going to flip down the top. I'm going to check my placement that everything looks good. I think I forgot to mention, if you do have matching squares, make sure and check your corners before you do your stitching that they're lined up. And I thought about that as I was starting my stitching, so I got them all done. Then I would just finger press this up like this, and then take it to the iron and press it away from the quilt. So you're got the new strip with its backing all ready to go. Then after you've done that, you're going to place your next batting strip on top of the backing and just tuck it up right against the seam. It's really not that hard to do. Just make sure that your backing is nice and straight. So just tuck it up like that. You don't need to. I live in Arizona, so we have a lot of static electricity. So I don't even feel like I need to put any kind of basting spray or anything like that. But if you do, you could use a little bit of basting spray to spray on your backing and on your batting. But for me, I can just feel how these things are just sticking together really well, which always amazes me. And then once you've got that all tucked up, make sure your backing is nice and straight. Feel with your fingers. Then flip down your top. Baste it however you want, basting spray, pins, and now quilt this section. Pretty cool, huh? I know. It's like, it really works. It really, really works. So after I do this, then I will in fact add another strip and I'll show you the same procedure again on what you do. So backing is out nice and straight, batting is there, there's my top. Smoothing it with my fingers. I'm going to check and make sure I can feel that that batting is still staying tucked underneath there. And if you want to, you could put a pin from the back, make sure and take it out before you baste. Before you quilt. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to quilt this section, and then I'll be back to show you the next step. It's so fun. So I'm going to show you the process one more time. You have your next backing strip right side up. Then you put your quilt top that you've done so far, all pieced together, all batting together, and lay that on, right side up, smoothing it all the way down. You'll be pinning in just a second. And then quilt top, next strip of quilt top, wrong side up or right side down. Then I'm going to make sure and match the quilt top to the previous piece and then pin it to the back. And then what I did is all the way down, I matched my seams of my blocks. So I would grab that first, then I'd straighten up the backing, and then I would pin that to stitch. And then you stitch at 1/4 inch all the way down. And then after you've done that, we're going to stick in our next piece of batting, and I'll go over that one more time. Be back soon. Okay, I have sewed on, actually, my last strip set to the quilt top. Make sure that when you press it, you sort of tug a little bit on the backing and really smooth the top, and then press this direction. And that will give you a nice flat seam on the front of your quilt. And once you've done that, you should have about 1/4 inch extra of backing sticking out from the quilt top. Because remember, we cut the whole thing 1/2 inch wider. Okay, so now you take your batting, and let me move my control there. Okay, so we're just going to very gently lift up the top, and we're going to take the batting and we're going to press it up against the seam, which is almost like a stop because of the fact that you've got several layers in there in the seam. So what I did is I pressed it up, and then I put a little pin, which obviously you have to take out before you do your stitching, but I put a pin coming from the outside so I could pull it out, pinning that batting into place to make sure that it didn't move there. And then I did the same thing at the bottom end. And then just keep pressing it, feeling it, smoothing it, and making sure everything is nice and flat. And if you're uncomfortable when you go to move your quilt, what you could do is just go ahead, move your top now, and then before you move it, just stick a couple of pins right there, which you'll remove before you start your quilting. And then just go ahead and quilt to within 1/2 inch to add on any more strips that you've got. But once I get there, I'm done. And I'm surprised it's gone really fast. So I'll be back as soon as I finish the last one and show you the whole quilt. I'm so excited. Here it is, all finished. Finished at 36 inches by 45 inches long. I just used 20 layer cake squares, and I used it for the back too, just because it's for Sherlock. So all I have to do is put a binding on it. The process went very quickly. You know, it's the first time that I finished a quilt top and actually gotten it quilted for quite a while. So this is definitely a method that could be used for lots of sizes. My brain is going on me. I have a little long arm, but it's covered with things to quilt. Somehow I never seem to get to them. So I got this all finished within, well, probably a week at the most. So if you have any questions at all about the procedure, I mean, it would work with any strip sets. I mean, they could be as long as you want, and you could keep adding strips to the side. I mean, eventually the quilt's going to get kind of big when you add your last few strips, but it would work. And I mean, if you don't have a place to long arm it for you, or you don't want to spend the money, you can do it yourself. So any questions, please let me know. Thank you as always for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't. And if you have anything that you would like to see, just drop it in the comments. Take care.